Hey, welcome. Hope you're doing great. I wanted to try something new, and this is it. A new format. Me talking, you listening, and getting annoyed because I just won't get to the point. Amazing! Anyways, for the first installment of this, I will be talking about Genshin Impact takes that are heavily outdated. These are takes that were, or still are to this day, believed by the significant portion of the community. Now, you were probably wondering where does Tectone come into play? And you see, he's actually an integral part of this video. It literally wouldn't exist without him, and you'll see why. With that being said, let me clarify one thing. Tectone was the first content creator I started watching when I started playing Genshin, so I am obviously biased. However, even with that bias, and even though I might be just one little nickname in his chat, and he might be this big content creator, I don't get on my knees every night to pray to him like he was Jesus. It would be stupid. And most importantly, creepy. And I certainly know more about the game now than when I started. And that's exactly the reason why in the current day I can only take a certain dose of Tectone before my eyes hurt from rowing. Still, it's not like I dislike him. I think he would understand it. He talks about how he can like the game but still criticize it, and that's basically the same thing I'm doing here. I'm more concerned about other people. Sometimes the human attention span isn't very long and things get lost along the way, which is actually one of the reasons those takes were so widespread. So let's go through them. Number 1, and oh boy, this is gonna be the longest segment, I can already tell. Bennet C6 is bad, and some of you probably get it now why Tectone is involved in this.
You dumbass! Get fucked. Oh, fuck. That you're doing this. Oh, no! You fucked up! You fucked up! Account ruined! Oh, you fucking moron. Oh, you fucking idiot, dude.
It's not the only one of his takes that makes him essential in this video, but probably most important one. Why? Well, I might be mistaken, but I think he was the one who started screaming Bennet C6 was bad. There might have been some other people, I don't know, random Reddit users or something, but from the bigger content creators, I believe he was the first. So, that was his take. Bennet C6 is bad, don't activate it. And, he was right. Did you expect I was going to say he was right? But anyway, he was, at the time, when the game came out. Now, how is it that it used to be true and now it's not? Well, first of all, Bennet was never this one character that is the best pick to every team. Yeah, I consider him the best character in the game, but for example Freeze never needed Bennet. But what is most important, we got a ton of new characters, specialized supports like Goro, Shenhe, Saura, Yunjin, and also the new characters are immune to his infusion, like Raiden or Iso, and this is a trend most likely to continue. I can't see a reason why it wouldn't. From the viable options, and let me define viable to make things more clear. So, viable. A playstyle, a team or a character that may stray from the meta, but is still usable without causing serious issues that may negatively impact players' experience. For example, Ganyu as a burst support, or Mona as a driver in Taser. Not meta, but viable. Main DPS Goro or Melt Ayaka, not viable. So, by this definition, which I'd say captures the word's meaning in the Genshin context, there aren't many teams affected negatively by Bennet C6. Sure, if you're playing a physical main DPS, first of all, if it's Eula, your best bet is not using Bennet anyway. Second of all, Kuching. Well, Saura exists and she's superior, even though her buff is a little worse. And if you play physical Kuching, you're cringe. Finally, if you play something like physical Kazuha, you already lost and Bennet's not going to help you much anyway. I wasn't serious back then, in case you couldn't tell, but I'll be serious now. If you truly are dedicated to a build like this and set on using Bennet with your physical main, that's fine. I will give you that one. In that scenario, Bennet C6 is not the greatest. Also, if you're a newer player, especially free to play, you probably don't have that many characters. If you somehow just got 7 Bennets, being AR20 or something, yeah, probably not the best idea to activate it. Overall, I have a petition to change C6 Bennet is bad and ruins your account to C6 Bennet has more pros than cons overall, but it is not recommended for newer players or people with very niche setups they are dedicated to. Agreed? By this point, you probably know why I included Tectone. It's just, he made me believe a lot of misconceptions to be true. C6 Bennet is the biggest one. It's still so common in the comments sections of Reddit, Twitch, YouTube and Twitter, and I'm afraid I will get C6 Bennet is bad, don't activate it in my mail. People are scared that this would ruin their accounts. The game is supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to stress over things like that. Just let people decide on their own. Number 2. Don't farm artifacts unless you're AR45. Now, that's another common take of Tectone, however, it's not a C6 Bennet situation since literally 99% of the content creators were saying that. This was so common that I ended up not using my resin. Like, original resin. Because I didn't know the difference between fragile resin and normal one. I only heard people saying save your resin for artifact grind until you're AR45. I mean, I still spent some to upgrade my characters, but most of the time it was just sitting at 120. This used to be the cap, by the way. You might say I'm dumb. And to this I say, I never said I wasn't. And also, I'm not the only one. Going forward, I think you not only can farm artifacts before AR45, but that you should. Your priority should still be leveling weapons, characters and talents. The early game is easy and you won't struggle until around AR 40-35 unless you've only played, I don't know, The Sims before. This is funny by the way, because endgame is literally the same. Struggling after AR 45 is for Genshin players like waking up with a sense of purpose and smile on their faces. It's pretty rare. Anyways, after you eventually start struggling a bit, that's a good time to farm some artifacts. Don't worry about the substats, crit ratios, all that stuff. Just, equip any 4 stars with good main stat and max them out. Don't take suggestions available in the game, by the way, because they are outdated as fuck most of the time. Another example of the takes I'm talking about still being alive and kicking. Overall, don't expect your 1-star pieces to carry you to AR45. Number 3. Focus on your 2 DPSs, you will need them for Spiral Abyss, make sure they are maxed out. This seriously is such an early 2021 take because you can see it's rooted in the early game mindset. And yes, early game you don't have to care about supports, but middle and late game is literally support impact. I'm sorry to break it to you, but your triple crowned Hu Tao with a Staff of Homa won't clear floor 12 with teammates level 50, talents level 2. I mean, maybe if she's C6R5, maybe, probably not. And I'm looking at the script and seems we have another dose of Tectone. Number 4. Healer Bennet is the best Bennet build. Now, with this one, I know when Tectone says he has the best Bennet in the world, it's not 100. Actually, it might be serious, but let's not go there. Anyway, I am not going to argue this statement is necessarily wrong. You can't really prove it or disprove it. On paper, this statement about Bennet is incorrect. Bennet already heals a ton, and unless you are not dodging anything and get gangbanged by 4 ruin guards, my point is, Bennet's healing is more than enough without HP or healing bonus main stats. In reality, Bennet's damage is pretty cracked. And just to be clear, it's not only C6 Bennet, obviously constellations help, but it's more about his multipliers. And also you usually level up his burst anyway, for the better buff. Additionally, he is Pyro, so he has access to vapes and melts on top of all of that. With his low cooldowns, even seemingly not important E's add up, and his Q is just a nuke. low cooldown nuke. His damage in the team is actually significant. It's not Diona's situation in which her damage is negligible, even with high investment. That said, I think the healing build is fine in 3 situations. First one, early game, in which you don't have to give a single damn about optimization. And also if you just don't give a damn about optimization overall, but then I'm surprised you made it this far into this video, thank you. Second, to simply put it, when you have a skill issue and sometimes his healing is not enough. But the first thing I would do is check if you're not playing with level 50 Bennet talents level 2. Third scenario, you a whale, you not care, game easy. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. However, chances are you are not a whale. If you are struggling with the Abyss, for example, switching your Bennet's build to more DPS oriented is one of the things you can do to make your clears faster. Unless you qualify into number 2. Number 5 is a bit similar. Crit build on Venti, Kazuha, or Sucrose does more damage than EM build. This is another one really widely spread out. You can see it by checking the in-game statistics. And this is probably a legacy of the past, pre 1.6 buffs. So 2021, man. For the uninitiated, crit build used to be the best for Venti, but with Kazuha's first banner we got an EM buff. After a few weeks of calculations, we finally got a verdict, which is still, to this day, accurate. If not single target, EM build does more damage in case of all 3 mentioned characters. So, as you can see, this statement hasn't become false entirely, but in Kazuha's case, for example, when fighting bosses, building crit over EM will boost his personal damage, however, it will tank your team damage significantly. So, even if single target crit means more damage, it kinda doesn't. Perfectly clear, let's move on to Venti. He's a little bit different because he doesn't have any EM-oriented buffs in his kit, but do you fight bosses with Venti? Overall, if you will only farm one set for Kazuha or Venti, farming EM is better because even single target, the difference is not that big. However, with at least 2 opponents, crit build just tanks hard. Well, do with this information as you please. Oh boy, number 6 is an extremely dividing one. Electro is bad and it needs a buff. Tell me you haven't heard it from content creators or random players and I will give you $1. About where this take comes from, I have a few theories. 1. It doesn't produce big PP numbers like Vape or Melt, nor does it have a broken buffing capability like Anemo with VV set. 2. In the first year of Genshin's existence, people criminally underestimated Fischl and Beidou and judged the whole element by kuching. 3. People didn't understand the workings of electrocharged and overload was infamous for knocking enemies away, while at the time, the Abyss was full of small enemies and we didn't see bosses there. 4. Electro resonance is not the greatest. I think all 4 contributed and in the current state of the game, this notion persists. Buff Electro, it's terrible. I say Electro is fine, but buff kuching for God's sake. Maybe with Dendro? Oh yes, good copium. Anyway, Electro is just a different playstyle. It's not about hitting a huge vape, it's about smaller numbers spreading from enemy to enemy, causing chain reactions. Additionally, overvape is only now getting recognition. If you don't know what it is, basically you cause overload and vaporize without one messing up the other. Overall, overvape is still pretty niche, pushing the smaller enemies away is still annoying. However, electrocharged was always good, even before characters like Raiden. In my opinion, Electro in Genshin is a sad tale about misunderstanding. Let's go to 7 and move away from the game's mechanics a bit. The 7th take on the list is starter characters are bad. And hey, on one hand, yes, they can compete with a lot of other 4-stars when Bennet or Fischl exist. On the other hand, they are not useless. They actually can be not only usable, but great in certain scenarios. There are 2 best Hu-Tao teams. The first is Double Hydro with Yelan, and the second involves Ember. It's pretty tricky to play and you also need eligible These are probably the main two reasons why Double Geo is more popular. Lisa, the Electro mummy with thrilling tales, is a great buffer. She's actually better than Sarah for Hyper Raiden, before Sarah's C6. And Lisa can fit in other teams, provided you stack a lot of ER. Kaya! He's great in melt and also can be a cryo applicator for physical carries. I dunk on physical a lot, but yeah, his multipliers on the normals aren't bad either. It's viable. The Traveler is pretty decent in Mono Geo. Anemo version can carry VV and buff consistently, which automatically makes them not bad if you don't have any other options. The same can be said about Electro. They are a decent battery. Speaking about batteries, how often do you lack energy recharge? Let's touch upon it in number 8. Crit value is what makes an artifact good. I saved it for last because I have to admit, I used to believe that for a very long time, not counting the Anemo supports or characters with unusual scalings. I mean, it's not like I didn't know EM buffs, elemental reactions, or that you need energy recharge to use your burst on cooldown. It's just, I underestimated a lot of stats while overestimating crit. Raiden is the reason why now I have more understanding of other stats. I made some changes in my account, like switching Xiangling's and Melt Ganyu's sense to EM, and it was really beneficial. Overall, overestimating crit stats leads to a whole lot of other smaller misconceptions. As for where does it come from, I think the whales may be the reason, because they have enough damage anyway to clear everything in one rotation. And I know they don't do it on purpose. It's not their fault. I can't really blame them. The problem is, Genshin community and people in general are like rotary phones. With that, I'm gonna quickly list some minor takes which are usually pretty nuanced and aren't necessarily outdated, but can be misleading. Rain Slasher is a terrible useless weapon, because Diluc and Beidou. Venti, Kazuha, Ganyu, my mom is a must pull, because no one is. Fischl is the best when played as physical, because no. Just no. Xiangling is unplayable without Bennet, because pizza with blue cheese is the best option, but it doesn't make a pizza without one bad. Chi-Chi and Diluc are S tier, because if you know, you know. Hu Tao is best girl and not Yoimiya, because it's the other way around. And just like that, after this probably quite lengthy journey, we finally reached the shore. Once again, I don't have anything against Tectone. Well, that's not true. I dislike some things he says or does, but it's not personal. Like I said at the beginning, I just think some of his takes are wrong, but these are his opinions, and although some may be disproven by math, I respect them nonetheless. My opinions are exactly what I shared today. You might disagree with them, and that's okay. I want the main takeaway to be, don't be afraid to ask questions, but also be open to ideas. See the discussion as a way for 2 or more people to share those ideas, not as something you need to win. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you feel like it, yada yada. Please do get into a civil argument with me in the comments if you want. Since this is my first video of this type, feedback would be much appreciated, and I hope you will stay on the channel. Bye! And no, I don't hate you, lad, nor I hate Hutam, but they are kinda annoying, you know?